She got me fired. Said it was just temporary. I believed her, until I learned she had pitched my idea as her own. At dinner, she toasted herself while I sat in silence. When I asked why, she said, "You wouldn't have made it anyway." The next morning, I sent one email to her boss that contained, "I never thought I'd be the guy who got stabbed in the back by someone he trained. But here I am. My name's Mitch. I'm 38, live in Cincinnati, and until last year, I worked in product development at Waybridge Systems. Not a big company, but big enough. We dealt mostly with logistics software, trucking companies, fleet managers, stuff like that. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid well, and I liked it. I had been there 6 years. Long enough to see a few reorgs, survive a couple budget cuts, and become one of the more senior guys on the product team. I wasn't flashy. I just knew my stuff. The project that kicked this whole thing off was something I'd been working on in my spare time. A routing feature I called SmartView. It wasn't part of my job description, but I believed in it. The basic idea was this: a way for delivery managers to see real-time changes in traffic, weather, and road conditions and reroute drivers on the fly, without calling them or relying on third-party apps. It used internal data, GPS, and a little bit of machine learning. It wasn't fully polished yet, but it worked. I kept it quiet. Just shared it with my manager, Alan, and one other person, Sasha. Sasha joined about 2 years after I did. She was newer, younger, and way more social than me. The kind of person who always showed up with coffee for the team, always loud in meetings. People liked her right away. I was the one who trained her when she started. She asked a lot of questions. Not the kind you write down, more like, how do you organize your tasks? What's the process you use for new builds? How do you name your folders? Stuff like that. I thought she was just being thorough. Turns out, she was taking notes on everything. One day, she came by my desk and asked if I could show her a feature I mentioned during lunch. I said sure. I showed her the SmartView demo, just a preview, something I was still tweaking. I even explained how I set up the data polls and route overlays. She nodded, smiled, said it was super smart. Then she asked if she could look at it more in depth sometime. I didn't think twice. I said yeah. About 2 months later, I get pulled into a quick Teams meeting with Alan. No warning. He looks serious. Says something like, "I hate doing this, man. I really do. But we've been asked to make some temporary cuts. Budget stuff. You're not being let go. Just furloughed for a bit." I sat there in shock. He said it wouldn't last more than a few months. Said Sasha would keep things moving in the meantime. I asked, why me? He said it wasn't performance related. Said it was just numbers. I left that meeting stunned, packed up my stuff, walked out without saying goodbye to anyone. Next morning, Sasha texts me, "Don't worry. This is just temporary. I'll keep things warm for you," smiley face. At the time, I thought she meant it. 3 weeks go by. I try to relax. I don't. One morning, I'm scrolling through LinkedIn and see a post from Waybridge. "We're proud to announce the launch of SmartFleet, our new dynamic routing platform, led by Sasha Taylor." I clicked the link. Every feature listed? Meaning? Every term used? I recognized them from my own documents. They even used a screenshot of the mock-up I had built, just with a different logo. I sat there staring at the screen, not blinking, not moving. I felt sick. I called Alan. Straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. I emailed HR. They said the project in question was led by a current employee, and they couldn't discuss internal development. I finally messaged Sasha. Just said, "SmartFleet looks familiar." She replied within minutes. "Guess great minds think alike, winky face." That's when it hit me. This wasn't an accident. She had been copying me from the start. A week later, I get an invitation to dinner. A mutual friend was throwing a small celebration for Sasha's promotion. I didn't want to go. My stomach turned at the idea of seeing her. But I went. I needed to see how far this would go. It was one of those trendy little wine bars downtown. Everyone was there, some people from the office, some of our old crew, even a VP. Sasha walked in like she owned the room. She was in a bright red dress, smiling, glowing, talking loud. Everyone toasted her. Then she stood up, glass in hand, looked right at me. Here's to taking bold steps, to knowing when to move, and to grabbing opportunities before they slip away.
People clapped.
I didn't. I couldn't even breathe. I waited until she stepped away from the group. I followed her near the bar and asked, "Why'd you do it?" She tilted her head, smirked. "You wouldn't have made it anyway. You're too slow. That's the truth." Then she walked off like it was nothing. I sat in my car that night with the keys in the ignition and didn't go anywhere. The next morning, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and pulled every document I had. Original SmartView project folder Slack exports with her name all over our chats, video of me testing the feature weeks before she got involved, GitHub timestamps with my commits and logins. Then I wrote one email. Subject: concerning Sasha Taylor's promotion. IP and ethics concerns, send it to our legal department. CC'd the VP, who toasted her.
No emotion.
Just facts. Documents attached. Then I waited.
2 days went by.
Nothing. No reply. No call. Not even a "we received your email." I started second-guessing myself. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they already knew. Maybe this was how it worked now. Someone younger comes in, takes what they want, and the company just lets it happen. Then, on the third morning, I got an email. From legal. Short and cold, but not automated. "Thank you for your message. We are currently reviewing the documentation you've submitted, and will follow up accordingly." That was it. Later that same day, Sasha messaged me. I hadn't heard from her since the night of the dinner. This time, she wasn't playing nice. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer. 5 minutes later. "You really want to blow up your own career over a side project? Then, you think they're going to believe you over me?" That last one made me laugh. Out loud. In my kitchen, alone. That's when I knew she was scared. The next day, I got a call from Lana, someone I used to work with in IT. She kept her voice low, like someone could be listening. "I probably shouldn't say this, but your email made noise. They pulled your old commits. Looked through Slack logs. HR is involved now." Then she paused. "They also found something else." I asked her what.
She didn't want to say.
Just told me to sit tight and stay available. 2 more days passed. Then I got a second email. This one from Alan, my old manager. The same guy who'd told me I was being temporarily furloughed. His message was formal, but I could read between the lines. "I'd like to invite you to a private meeting with HR and our legal advisor regarding concerns you've raised about project attribution and internal conduct." That was their way of saying, "We found something, and we know you're not lying." Meeting was set for Friday, 9 a.m. It was on Zoom. They didn't even bother to blur their faces. Alan was there. HR rep, legal advisor, VP of product. They let me speak first. I didn't give a speech. I didn't get emotional. I just laid it out again. Walked them through the screenshots, the Slack chats, the timestamps. I showed the exact moment Sasha asked to see the SmartView demo. Then, the changes in the code base a week after that, with her name attached. But the base code? Still mine. Same structure. Same notes. Even the same typos. When I was done, they all went quiet. Then Alan cleared his throat and said, "We've reviewed your evidence, and we believe you." I felt my chest tighten. Then he added, "But there's more." Turns out Sasha didn't just take credit. She tried to erase me. When I was furloughed, she got access to my files. She renamed them, changed tags, deleted old commits, then submitted her version to management under a new name, SmartFleet. She even altered the metadata on the internal docs. But what she didn't know was that the IT team had backups. Full server snapshots. Every deleted file, every name change, everything was still on record. They found a folder named Old Mitch Dump. That was mine. She had literally dumped all my dev files into a junk folder and overwritten them with her copies. I sat there, staring at the screen, waiting to hear what would happen next. Alan finally said, "We're initiating disciplinary review. Sasha has been suspended pending investigation." We'll also be discussing next steps for reinstating your role, with consideration for damages. Then the legal advisor leaned in. We may reach out to you again. There could be legal consequences for what she's done. I wanted to feel satisfied, but I didn't. Not yet. This wasn't over. I didn't just want my job back. I didn't just want her suspended. I wanted everyone who backed her to admit what they'd done. I wanted it public. Because there was one thing they hadn't addressed in that meeting. One detail they skipped over. Sasha didn't come up with the name Smartfleet. That name came from Alan. It was his suggestion. I had it in an old Slack thread, buried under dozens of messages. He knew the whole time. I sat with that realization for a while. Alan knew. He had seen that name before, Smartfleet, because he came up with it. I dug through my old Slack archive again. There it was.
Clear as day.
From 6 months ago, before any of this blew up, Alan. SmartView sounds too passive. What about something more dynamic? Maybe? Smartfleet. At the time, I didn't think much of it.
Just thought he was spitballing. But now?
Now it was obvious. He'd been in on it from the start. That changed everything. I thought back to the day I got temporarily laid off. Alan had looked uncomfortable on the call, like someone had told him what to say. But what if he made the call? I didn't just send that original email to legal because I wanted my credit. I sent it because I needed people to see the truth. But now, the truth went deeper than Sasha. It went into management. And I wasn't the only one. I reached out to Brian, a guy who used to be on our team before he transferred out last year. We hadn't talked in a while, but I remembered he left suddenly after a weird disagreement with Alan. I messaged him on LinkedIn. Told him what happened. Just the basics. Asked him if he ever had something stolen or buried at Weybridge. His reply was short. Call me. We talked for 2 hours. Brian had built a customer tracking module that was supposed to be integrated into our flagship system. But at the last minute, Alan scrapped it. Said it was too buggy, even though it passed QA. 2 months later, a new tool launched, led by another developer Alan had promoted. Same features. Slightly different name. Brian said he had tried to bring it up, but HR brushed it off. Said it was team collaboration and that ideas evolve. He told me, I just gave up. I didn't have proof like you. But now we did. Over the next week, I gathered more. I wasn't just building a case against Sasha anymore. I was building a timeline of Alan's pattern. Project ideas pushed by junior staff, then suddenly reassigned. Credit shifted. Promotions handed out to whoever played ball. I found 3 other former employees with similar stories. One woman, Taryn, had her security dashboard tool shelved, only to see it show up 6 months later under a different team's name. She left quietly, just like Brian. This wasn't a one-time thing. It was a system. Alan ran it. Sasha just knew how to play it better than most. I updated legal with what I found. Attached screenshots, timestamps, emails from the others with permission. The response this time was immediate. They wanted another meeting. But this one wasn't just with HR. This time the CEO was on the call. It happened the following Monday, 10 a.m. sharp. The CEO, Rhonda Mace, didn't waste time. She looked pissed. Mr. Blake, we've received substantial documentation about misconduct within the product team. I want to personally thank you for bringing this forward. What you've uncovered is unacceptable. She told me Alan had been put on indefinite leave pending internal review. Then she asked me directly, is there anything else we should know? I took a deep breath, then said, yeah, I want it all on record.
Public.
I want a statement from this company making it clear who created SmartView. And I want the others, Brian, Taryn, to get public apologies too. There was a pause. Then she nodded. We'll make it right. It won't be quiet. But it still wasn't enough for me. Because Sasha? She hadn't disappeared. Not even close. I found out through a friend that she'd already lined up interviews at 2 competitor companies. She was shopping the Smartfleet launch as her big claim to fame, using the same stolen pitch deck, the same demo videos. She was still trying to profit off what she took from me. I couldn't let that happen. So I made one more move. One last twist of the knife. I contacted both companies, sent them the full package. But I didn't stop there. I published everything. I didn't post it on some angry blog or ran on Reddit. I wanted it to stick. So I wrote a detailed, clean summary of everything: dates, names, evidence screenshots, even project commit logs. I wrote it like a case study, like something you'd read in Wired or Forbes. Then I posted it on Medium under my real name with the title, the feature I built, the credit I lost, and the system that helped it happen. I didn't call names in the headline, but the article had everything. How SmartView became SmartFleet, my documentation, Slack message, excerpt Sasha's behavior, Alan's pattern of stealing and rewarding those who played along at the end. I added this. This isn't about one woman or one stolen idea. This is about a broken culture that lets it happen again and again because no one expects the quiet ones to fight back. It spread faster than I expected. In 2 days, it had 40,000 views. By the end of the week, over 100,000. And someone sent it to TechMap Weekly, a tech newsletter with a massive following. They republished a version of it with receipts. My name was on it. So was Weybridge's. That's when everything blew up. Weybridge's LinkedIn page was flooded. People asking questions, tagging the CEO, even some old employees chiming in to say they'd seen similar things. One former exec commented, "This isn't new. I left because of this exact behavior." 2 of Weybridge's clients pulled out. That's when the board stepped in. Alan was fired. Not suspended. Not reassigned. Fired. With a press release that used the word misconduct.
Sasha?
She didn't just lose her job. She lost both of her pending offers. I know, because one of those companies replied to my message. A recruiter thanked me and said, "We've decided to rescind the offer. We don't tolerate intellectual theft here." She tried to play victim on Twitter. Said she was being targeted by toxic men and that her growth was threatening to fragile egos. That lasted about a day. Then someone replied with a direct link to the code logs, showing she copied a file with my name in the original metadata. She deleted her account. A week after that, I got a call from Rhonda, the CEO. She asked if I'd consider coming back. Said they were rebuilding the team from scratch. Said they needed people with integrity. I said I'd think about it. She paused, then added, "We'd also like to issue a public statement crediting you as the creator of what's now SmartFleet. And we're renaming it." That stopped me cold. She said, "We're reverting to your original name, SmartView, and we'll make sure it's tied to you." I didn't take the job. I didn't want to go back. Not even with Alan gone. Not even with the apology. I took a contract gig for a logistics startup out of Chicago. One of their partners read my article and reached out personally. It paid more. They gave me full creative control. I wasn't just rebuilding my career, I was doing it my way. A few months later, I heard Sasha was doing temp work for a small marketing firm. She was off social media, off the radar, out of the industry for good. Alan, I found out, tried to get a consulting job. But word had gotten around. A few people forwarded his resume to me. Someone had watermarked it and passed it around in tech circles with the word liability. His name was tainted. But here's the real end. About a year later, I got invited to speak at a software leadership conference in Columbus. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, but the theme got me. Protecting innovation, giving credit where it's due. That stage wasn't flashy. It wasn't huge, but it mattered. I stood in front of a room full of people, young developers, old managers, startup founders, and told them everything. I told them how easy it is to stay quiet, how dangerous it is to trust the wrong people, and how sometimes the only way to make them listen is to burn the silence down. She took my job. She took my idea. She thought I'd just disappear. Instead, I made sure she'd be remembered for the last thing she ever tried to steal. And me? Now, they remember my name.